Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Packaging Today show. I'm joined by my friend Corey Connors. Corey, how you feeling today?
Good morning, packaging people.
Yeah, we're just starting out this Monday with this vibe, this lo-fi vibe. We're going to be talking about plastic recycling and why you ain't going to have so much PP, micro PP.
Oh man,
I can't say it.
I can't do it. This is
I can't say it.
Apologies
All right.
to all of you.
Lo-fi music, we're out. Hey, it's the Packaging Today show. Avelio is not with us and we couldn't use his platform, so you are on mine.
Yeah, welcome though. Live.
Yeah,
we're live.
Phil Coleman.
Yeah.
I don't even have the fun office intro, and I can't play the old one because we'll be banned in Belarus. But I did, Corey, in honor of last week, I wore my Stussy shirt today because we were talking last week about Rainwater's April Fool's Day joke and their Stussy S. So I thought that would at least be fun.
I think it's awesome that these brands are coming back. I think it's cool. It makes sense, for people like us. I've gone to several in the same vein of age, several concerts this last couple years that were like the 20th or 25th reunion of bands that I loved when I was a teenager. And it's fun to bring my son along and listen to that music that he and I both enjoy.
Yeah, it's there's something about the market of nostalgia that is really compelling, and I think we're seeing a lot of brands kind of join in. Hey, if you are watching, if you did find us, you probably went to Avelio's page to see what's going on, and you didn't see anything. So if you did find us here live, please join in the comments. Let us know maybe what's your favorite nostalgic band or brand. See what it is there, the band or the brand.
I saw somebody post. I saw a post today about nostalgic packaging or Pepsi brands. And I thought it was really cool. They had the kind of old classic logos and all of that on their labels. And I thought that was an opportunity for possibly where they could have used those reusable bottles that they used to use.
Yeah.
They could have turned that into a sustainability play as well, and not just a marketing push.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. We have a question from the comment section. Mr. Matt Burns says, what bands, Corey, have you seen lately?
Yeah, so I got to go see Sunny Day Real Estate with my son, and
obviously
they're awesome. Blink-182, it was really neat to see them live again 20 years later, or maybe more. I don't know.
It's been a while.
It's exciting to get to hear these bands again and get to enjoy them with my son, who's a drummer in his junior high. So.
Yeah, I the other day I was listening to music. Sometimes I just get in a nostalgic mood, and there was like a Christian ska band from the mid '90s called the OC Supertones, and awesome. I just went down the rabbit hole. Like I remembered all the songs, and I looked it up and realized when the Supertones Strike Back album came out, I was 17 and I'm in the car with my 17-year-old and I'm like, wow, this is it. It was kind of wild. Matt Burns comes back in. Thanks, Matt, for listening here.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Bazooka Joe Gum definitely has some nostalgic packaging. That's for sure. And I think that we'll potentially see a little bit more about that. Hey, so Corey, I was really tempted to just make this show all about what seems to be what we're all talking about, which is, tariffs really, and the impact that tariffs are having. I had lunch with a friend of mine who works for a printer, and he said to me, the hardest thing, he's been in business for a long time, and he said one of the most difficult things for me right now is that my largest cost input, which is paper, is I don't know. He's like, because we bring in paper from everywhere, from Canada, from Europe, from Australia, from the US. And he said there's just not enough paper. So it just was like, I didn't even, I mean, as stupid as it is, I didn't even think about like that. And I don't think a
Raw
lot of people
materials.
are thinking
Right.
about, yeah, the cost of raw materials. We don't have to spend the whole time talking about it, but it seems to be dominating every news channel seems to be
Yeah.
talking about this. And I know Avelio, his company is working through a lot of it as well. What has the conversation been like with you? And we're going to get to 3 articles that have nothing to do with tariffs and have everything to
Right.
do with good news with plastic recycling, because we want to talk about some good news here. But
Yeah.
just curious, what's going on with you guys here on this Monday as we look at the tariff implications?
I remember when there was a label shortage because of that one factory in, was it Norway or Sweden or that shut down for some reason,
They were on
and
strike.
they were on
The
strike
worker
for
the workers were on strike, and we couldn't get a craft paper label liner, which
Mhm.
then meant there was a run on PET film liner,
Yep.
that and neither market was prepared for the influx of orders, and so raw materials for labels just basically became really hard to get.
I think a lot of people don't understand how much raw material is imported, and even for these things that are made in the
It was
USA.
Finland. You're right,
Yeah,
Brandon, it was Finland.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Brandon
Yes.
Gomez. Appreciate your wisdom, sir. But there's so much of that raw material, whether it's the paper that we use for corrugated or the backer material for labels. A lot of that is imported from places all over the world, and these tariffs are going to have massive impact on all of that supply chain. And so I think there's going to be a kind of a run on some of that material. We're
Mhm.
seeing some panic ordering, things like that. I heard yesterday that people are going out to buy cars as fast as they can.
Yeah.
Anybody that was even considering it before these tariffs take effect. So we're going to see a big change.
I heard a story about how one of our largest exports is actually U.S. cotton,
Hmm.
and but we don't really make T-shirts here, and so there was a factory, or there I'm gonna mess up the country because I'm just pulling this from memory, but I want to say it was Nicaragua is one of our largest exporters of cotton to make T-shirts. So we export cotton to Nicaragua,
Hmm.
$300 million a year or something like that. T-shirts are made there and then they're imported back into the United States. Well, now there's a double tax on that because we're getting dinged on the tariffs on the export. And then when the materials come back, so these are US materials with, US factories that are going out. And then when they come back in, there'll be a secondary tariff on that. So even
Right.
something like T-shirts are going to be pretty hugely impacted. Let's see. What does Matt say here? I assume we'll have a surge in manufacturers sourcing packaging in the U.S. I assume that's a great thing. I use Google Maps to prospect to find many packaging manufacturers still around. I'm proud that packaging has remained a great American industry. Now, I said we didn't want to dominate this with tariffs, but it is the topic du jour.
It really
Um,
is. Yeah. It's
and
affecting us all.
it is, and to the point that I would say is that even if you are an American manufacturer of finished goods, maybe it's labels, maybe it's corrugated, maybe it's folding cartons,
Mhm.
plastic bottles, which we'll talk about here in a second, foam, whatever it might be, the inputs to that are largely an international marketplace.
Right.
Um, and and so while we will potentially see more of that, I'm not sure that the calculus is gonna necessarily be 100% like, yes, it's going to be reshored in the
Yeah.
immediate future, because if it now maybe it makes it more competitive,
Yes.
right? Like, there's a potential that that's the case, but if you are buying finished folding cartons from China, and there's a 67% tariff or whatever the number is, and that's gonna change, as we've already
Yeah.
found.
They're
Whatever that
constantly
whatever that
changing.
is,
Right.
if your price here to make them in the US is double or 100%, it's still going to be, what is that, 33% less expensive. And maybe
Right.
you have freight and stuff like that, but is it really gonna is it gonna narrow the gap so much that it's gonna be like, you know what? Yes, we're just gonna go buy from these American companies because where you have that delta, if the paper inputs and the inks and everything all have these other components coming in, it's still gonna go up. Like we're still, if we were already here, maybe it goes like this and it goes like this, but
Yeah.
I'm not 100% certain that the impact that we think is going to have is going to happen because wages are going to have to go up.
Yes.
People are going to demand more wages because the cost of stuff's just going to get more expensive. Um, so I don't know. I'm not sure. Neither one of us are economists, Corey. If we were, we wouldn't be. Maybe we'd still be impacted. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Not
it's
my thing. No.
it's certainly interesting. And this isn't about politics, right? Like we're trying to have a conversation about like
Yep.
the economic impacts of what's going to happen in the packaging industry. And it's honestly, it's just yet to be determined. There's already plenty of lawsuits that are taking place because of how the tariffs were enacted. So I'm following those closely. Just as fast as they came, we could be talking about how they all left next week. Honestly, that's how fast this stuff can change.
I saw something yesterday talking about Vietnam that they said they were going to just relinquish and they wouldn't have any tariffs on our stuff if we wouldn't put any tariffs on their stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, maybe that's the way moving forward. We just eliminate all this garbage,
Yeah, I don't have any idea, but we
see.
will see. We'll see. Matt says, with cost possibly narrowing, how much more important is communication speed, proficiency, and expertise from suppliers? I got to be
Right.
honest with you. I'm going to say this as truthfully and honestly as I can. I don't know because
Right.
the cost pressure is going to be so much in order to keep cost of goods sold down, to keep wages in check. Like there's going to be so much cost pressure that I don't know what I genuinely don't know. You see the impact, the economic impact on the stock market that's going to be impacting a lot of people from their 401ks to their private stock. Like this is a larger impact, obviously, than just the packaging industry. But I don't know how people are going to react. If it's like my job is predicated on me saving money, and you've been great. You've been a great supplier for 20 years, but I don't get to keep my job if I don't
Right.
if I don't find a way to save us money. I actually don't think that it's going to really matter as much as that sucks. That's short term, but I'm not sure how much that's going to matter.
Right.
Wait, what's going on, Brandon?
Oh,
Why?
maybe he's going back to the bands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Brandon might be a little bit late. I was like, what did I walk this way? Yeah, Run DMC would be a great band to watch.
Maybe he's talking about Adidas. Yeah, my Adidas. Yeah.
My Adidas, walk this way. Hey, I want to talk about a few things that are, I think, good news and also are not going to go away. And they also can't just change with the snap of a finger. And that's some of the news here. Do we have any news music? Let's see here. Media assets. Do we have, let's see, we got background music in here.
I'm excited that some of them are involving recycling.
Yeah, let's see. Is this good transition news music? Nope. Let's see this one. Oh yeah. Let's get to the news with Adam and Corey.
Yes.
Okay.
We sure do miss Avelio today. Yeah.
We really need Avelio. More ways than one. Okay.
Yep.
So we've got here, this is from Axios in Seattle from April 1st, which was last week. Washington's recycling system could get a major makeover. This seems like Senate Bill 5284 is going to be essentially an EPR bill, is what I picked up on from this article. Corey, what are your first thoughts on what's happening in Washington as part of a state-by-state EPR recycling scheme?
I'm excited to see. It's similar to the Oregon law where they're making things more consistent across the board. The problem with recycling has always been, well, this is recyclable on this street, but not on that street. And those streets might be next to each other. And I think Mikey from Scrap told us one time there was 28,000 different recycling schemes or waste schemes in the different counties of America. And that's impossible for consumers to understand how to recycle and what to recycle. So this kind of thing is exciting to me. They stopped recycling glass because of the closure of one of their bottle glass manufacturing plants, which makes a lot of sense because shipping glass is very heavy and it's very expensive, even when it's broken into pieces. But I think it's one of the most recyclable materials on Earth, and our recycling rates here are still below 40% in America. Whereas in Europe, they're upwards of nearly 80% of recycling glass. So we know it's possible. We just have to have the resources and the availability curbside to allow for that to be recycled.
I thought this was interesting too. That they're saying that a measure like Senate Bill 5284, this is where the EPR comes in, would boost Washington's residential recycling rate from 40 to 66%. I'm wondering if that is specific to glass. I didn't dig into this report at all. But you know, I think that in general, things like this, whether it's in Oregon, Washington, Colorado, California, Minnesota, whatever the other states are, putting the financial pressure onto the places that can actually do it, they can do something about it, I think is really important. Because companies are able to do it. Yeah.
Right. They need to be pressured to make packaging that is recyclable or reusable or compostable. They need to have a financial incentive. I remember my first boss at Kent Landsberg, when it was called that, said, we got to hit them in the wallet. That's how it works. There has to be a financial incentive or they won't take action.
Yep. I completely agree. And you know, it's to be seen if we take the two conversations we've had, right? And I'm going to be speaking about this actually at InfoFlex in Pittsburgh in about a month with the Flexographic Technical Association, is like, how do we have a different mindset when it comes to navigating some uncharted waters for us, right? And policies are one of those things, whether it's EPR policies or tariffs or whatever it might be. How do we approach these things in a different way? You know, for example, I reached out to the CAA and I asked them about the impact of labels on bottles. And right now it's just the weight of the label and the weight of the bottle. And so it's like, hey, if you want to go help your brands that you're working with really truly understand how are they going to navigate these rising costs, whether it's EPR fees, reporting fees, or tariffs, whatever it might be, I think that lightweighting is a massive way to do that. And that's what these EPR bills actually help encourage, is say like, hey, if you're going to take out weight and it still maintain recyclability on these materials, you're going to have to pay less. And I think it's a really positive step. Got a comment here from John Gregory real quick, and we can actually, did you want to add anything to that story? Sorry.
No, I think that's exactly right. Lightweighting has become more important than ever. We've been talking about it for many, many years. Right sizing and lightweighting packaging is such a simple and effective way to save money and to reduce freight costs. But now there'll be an actual measurable delta in cost savings by the amount of material, the amount of fees you won't have to pay for responsibility laws like Oregon and Washington and all the other ones.
And not to mention all the ones that are going on in the EU. So John was commenting back on our tariff talk at the beginning. Work for a company that sells both packaged consumer products and bulk packaging materials. The tariffs are helpful to us when competing against Asian imported retail products, but we'll likely see price increases on our bulk raw materials, and domestic mills and corrugated producers will likely take advantage of rising import prices and then raise their pricing. It would be interesting to get Ryan Fox's take on this. If you don't follow Ryan, Fox. He does a ton of great work for Green Markets with Bloomberg. Is that what it's called, Corey?
Yes.
Yeah. And he has a whole model that tracks corrugated pricing and input costs and things like that. We should try to get him on maybe to talk about this.
That's a great idea. I think it's going to have major impact on, and I think, like you said, the demand is going to spike for American or North American produced products. So we'll see if that affects the corrugated market, which I think it will dramatically.
Yep. Let's shift back over here to this article that I saw in Waste Dive. It says ideas for easing recycled content woes through policy and packaging. So we had a plastics recycling conference. We can see.
Wait, scroll up a second. That's Megan Quinn. Do you think she's related to Mr. Jonathan Quinn?
I was gonna ask the same thing.
I saw her name the other day, and I was like, "That's a really unique last name." So Megan or Jonathan, if you're listening, let us know. Are you related? Or
any relationship?
Any relation?
Yeah, that's good because Jonathan actually spoke to this, right? You see here.
That's him right there. Yeah, right next to the guy running.
So
the plastic man. The plastic man.
Yeah, he definitely has microplastics in his.
Yeah.
We'll see you, Matt. Thanks for tapping in with us on this Monday. Appreciate it. So this was last week or I guess 2 weeks ago in Maryland. There was a plastic recycling conference. I wanted to highlight a few things here, which was the progress report showed that PCR now accounts for 14% of Brandon Retail's plastic packaging, which is up from 5% in 2018. And so that's a massive increase.
Yes.
And a great win and a great story, I think, even though it's below the target of 26%. And Jonathan's actually quoted down here as saying, we're doing a great job of telling each other how great of an impact we're having, but a horrible job of communicating the challenges and hurdles of the progress we've made to consumers. Right. I thought that was really cool to see.
I think this is what we were hoping that extended producer responsibility would cause. This is the outcome that we were pushing for, that the demand for recycled content would skyrocket, and then they would almost create their own system, they being large brands like Pepsi's and Coca-Cola's, say, hey, we want our bottles back. We know our bottles are good quality. We want those back. And so we can use them again and again, even to the point where Coca-Cola now says, recycle me, really, really large on their bottles. And I think that's an important step.
Yeah. I thought this was interesting. This quote here from Mark Watts at Church and Dwight says it's getting more and more expensive as well as technically demanding in terms of how we put this material back into products. And this is the case that I've always made when it comes to PCR content and recycling. And this is why I think EPR and policies are a big component of it, is because there is an economic factor that just cannot be avoided when it comes to recycling and PCR content, yes. Especially in light of everything that we've already been talking about, adding more costs into something like vitamin, HDPE bottles for right. Church and Dwight. Increasing the cost of that is not something that they're going to be super interested in doing. Maybe that was a case when times were a little bit better and they could get some marketing value out of it. I don't think that we're going to see a lot of that. And so I feel like there has to be a way in which we make recycling more economic. And
it will be.
It's going to have to be, right? Like we don't have a choice.
It has to be, right. Well, and they're going to look at the cost not only of the bottle, but then they're going to look at the cost of the extended producer responsibility fees coming. So they're going to do that math and say, okay, well, if we add 10% more PCR to this bottle, our fees will go down 10%. And so maybe it's a wash, or maybe they actually save 5%. And I think the companies are going to start thinking like that, which is really cool.
Seth, we'll get to your question here in 1 second, but I did want to highlight just one more piece of good news. This also came from Axios. I don't know if this was like a paid thing or not, but I thought it was at least interesting. Um, you mentioned Coca-Cola and some bigger companies who are investing in recycling. So I saw this that in 2024, their Coca-Cola Consolidated collected more than 974 million plastic bottles
Wow.
through its partnership with Circular Solutions Advisors. And so I feel like and then they also help to partner with the Washington Capitals um, to broken hockey sticks into stackable oyster restoration reefs. It's always easy, Corey, to look at these big companies and say, look at how terrible you are. Like they're this big, giant corporation that it's easy to just like throw rocks at. But it's also okay for us to say, like, hey, there are good things that are happening. I don't know
They're
what
trying.
percentage of bottles those are across the 14 states, but as you mentioned, they're doing a great job slapping Recycle Me on everything. They're investing money into recycling. They are the ones who will benefit most from PCR content. So
Yes.
of course they're going to invest. It's like saying a paper mill is investing in reforestation. It's like, yes, of course
Yep.
they want to do that. They want to make this stuff cheaper so they can keep their own costs down.
Yeah, when I worked at Weyerhaeuser at the beginning of my career, we learned that for every tree cut down, they would plant 10. And of course they would, because who wants the forest to be more sustainable than the people that benefit from the wood fiber? So
Yeah,
it makes sense, and it's the same thing here. We're dealing with a commodity that needs to be reused.
agreed. So let's get here to Seth, and then if anyone else has any other questions, please let us know. Seth says, Seth Ottinger, I apologize, Seth, for your Volunteers loss. Or I'm sad for you that the Tennessee Volunteers lost in March Madness. Are the additives they used to maintain strength in a paper better than using more paper fiber, a highly sustainable material?
Good
Corey,
question.
I'm gonna defer to Corrugated on this particular question. What additives are added, and does that have a negative impact on recycling? I don't understand what happens
So
in
during the
that.
manufacturing process, there are lots of materials and chemicals added to corrugated, like starch, for example, to make make the flutes stand up. So, when you starch a shirt, it becomes more stiff. They starch the median to make it stand up, and that's really an important part of the manufacturing process. And to answer your question, I think the answer is that depends. So sometimes you want to look at higher virgin material to make a thinner box, or you might need to use more additives. You might need to use double wall material. The answer is it's kind of all over the place. It
Mhm.
depends on the application. I think that's why it's so important to work with great packaging partners that really know corrugated and understand the system and the materials available. There's so many different basis weights of paper and combinations that can make up a box. It's really an exciting potential there.
Corey, I can't believe you just read that off of Chat GPT. That was no. It's I think the fact that you could just rattle that off is I don't know, you're not one to come on here and highlight and tout yourself, but you started off working in a corrugated box plant,
Right.
and they're going all the way back to Matt's question about expertise and things like that. There is a place in which I still think that is so valuable, not because it's like, hey, we're going to buy the same box, we're going to pay 20% more from this guy or this girl because
Mhm.
they know what they're talking about, but rather I think it's to be able to say, hey, I know that we're looking, you want me to price item A, but actually if we were to come in and re-engineer this and look at whatever the starch things are, whatever the stuff you're talking about, we could give you a stronger box with a slightly different design that uses less material, and and your total applied cost when you calculate everything in, when it comes, especially with corrugated, right? You start looking at the dimensional weight of
Right.
it when it goes to ship and LTL and all this, putting on a pallet. Like somebody who can come in and just very quickly look through that, I think is incredibly valuable. It's always been valuable. It's
Right.
just, I do think that there's a ton of value in that. It's not valuable just because you know the stuff. It's valuable because of what you can bring to a customer who's trying to navigate everything. They're trying to
Yes.
navigate everything right now. So I just wanted to
It's
say that you're pretty awesome.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. Well, you are too, Adam. I think we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and I think we need to work together to solve the packaging problems for our clients the best we can. So I'm here to help. Reach out.
Amen. Well, on that note, Corey, we want to say thanks to Seth and Brandon and John and Matt and everybody else who might be watching this on replay, or if you're tuning in on the podcast. Our podcast has been growing quite a bit. It's been. Oh, and Chris,
Hey,
I'm glad you
Chris.
found us. Chris says, "Great show today. Nice to hear some good news about packaging sustainability. Any thoughts on a White Lotus series recap?" I don't know.
Wait, my wife loves that show. I haven't been keeping up on it, but I've heard it's awesome.
I've never watched it, Chris. I apologize. I'm letting you down. But
you should come on, Chris, and tell us about it someday.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We appreciate everyone for coming on, hearing some good news, talking about relevant stuff. We'll be back tomorrow. Will be Tuesday, April 8th, and we will have another show of Packaging Today. Hopefully, I'm not sure if Velio can join us or not. If not, then we will we'll figure it out. Let's
Oh yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you everybody for coming on the Packaging Today show. Really appreciate it. If you would please like, subscribe, and share this amazing content. We would love it so much. See ya.